All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday evening here, joined by Matt Belman as we get ready for some intrigue, some Sunday night football. Some would say we've been waiting all day for Sunday night. Belman, what's going on? You got a little pep in your step today. This is a good thing.
Yeah, Browns big W for Cleveland and Jacksonville. Neither team looked great, but nice bounce back win for the Browns. Deshaun Watson didn't look amazing, but he looked a lot better than the 9 QBR he put up last week. First drive, he looked crisp. So yeah, feeling better today than I was last week. I thought there was no chance I was going to cash. I played two lineups on DraftKings today, either of them without. Man, it seemed like everyone scored TDs early. CeeDee Lamb. I didn't have Kamara, but the guys I did use ended up doing pretty well late, and I ended up, cashing both my lineups. Nothing crazy, but kind of the opposite of last week. So feeling good. How about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, betting did not go well. Yesterday I was riding high. I had a great day. Today, yeah, looks like I might win some baseball, lose in NFL, and TBD on still with tonight's game in play. So, AKA par for the course. I didn't get ruined, but it would have been nice to get a little something in the old pocket here. A couple dumb bets cost me. I got cocky after yesterday, so I bet a little larger than normal in baseball. So that happens, and unfortunately, I don't have Bet 365 because if I did, I would be taking up that offer where you bet five and then get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Especially if you go in through the link in the YouTube description below us here, we get credit for referring you, and it's a nice little bonus. So check that out. You need to be 21 or older in most states, 18 in Kentucky. And if you or anybody you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We're going to talk about that again because that's a really good deal, but we'll do that in a little bit. We got a super chat here from Chris Williams, everybody's favorite Apple guy here. Says, shout out to Katz is a legend for bashing Matt. That would be Matt Kajeski. For giving a few college picks that were incorrect yesterday, which he owned up to. He said it was his worst day betting probably ever. And then Katz gave all his takes today, and every single one of them was absolutely trash. A hamster in Georgia got as many touchdowns as your touchdown picks did, you muppet. That's for Katz, not for Matt Kajeski. Laffy put out a 5 TD, 5 touchdown score round robin. All 5 hit. All 5 hit. So, I mean, if you guys are not joining us in the Odd Shopper streets, you really ought to. We have a new feature there, the Tails feature. It allows you to subscribe to your favorite Odd Shopper content providers, and we're adding tons of people. It's not just strictly stochastic people over there. There's quite a few people from across the industry, both DFS and sports wagering, that are giving out their picks for the pretty much everything. You've got Lindy giving out picks for all the pick'em sites and all the sports wagering sites. Josh is really focusing on all the pick'em sites. You've got Shander, whoever breath he takes, he then hands out some sort of ridiculous parlay, and he has been getting quite the ROI on these. And I think there's about a dozen people providing content now, but you guys can check that out as well. It seems like it was a good day for road teams today. Fortunately, for those of you in survivor pools, if you went with Kansas City, they just won, kicked a last-second field goal to win in Burrowhead Stadium. It was almost Burrowhead Stadium again today. That was funny. I hadn't heard that, but I heard it on a bunch of podcasts this week, so that made me laugh. But yeah, there were some ugly ones. Apparently, Dallas's pretenders, the Saints are contenders. It's we thought Kamara was done, dusty, creaky, just nobody you wanted in best ball. He had 4 touchdowns today, 3 rushing.
How about the Raiders?
The Raiders winning against Baltimore. Oh, that was the team I picked, Jordan Klein, in my survivor pool. Was Baltimore was definitely one of those. So oops, that didn't go so well. And if you guys were picking up my cash teams, you got rich today. I think I scored 123 points. It's not very good. There are 10, at least 10 or 15 available now. $1 head-to-heads in the DK lobby for Showdown. username EMac. Check those out. But let's get into the content, Matt, because we've got a lot of fun ahead of us here. It is an 8:15 kickoff, so we're going to put a little pep in our step, get really down to the analysis here. Key things I want to call out. We're going to go pass catchers and then rushing game for each team. So inactives tonight, Damian Pierce is out. He was dealing with a hamstring issue. Cam Akers is active. He's just $200 on DK. We saw Joe Mixon with like every touch last week for the backfield. He had 30 carries, but I suspect Akers may get a few tonight, so we'll break that down. You also have Keenan Allen is out as well, so that is important. Rome Odunze is going to play. He's dealing with a tweak. They didn't really want to say sprain, but it's probably a sprained MCL. But he is going to be playing. Velus Jones Jr. is not active, and then Kari Blasingame didn't practice all week, so he's not active. On the Chicago side, Houston, the key offensive person who's out is Damian Pierce, and then John Mechie is inactive. But with all of those wide receivers there, Mechie is really not getting a lot of action. So going to hand it over to you, Matt. We have Caleb Williams down one of his offensive weapons. He disappointed everybody in the last game. Can we never play him again? Is he just a bum? Is he a Ryan Leaf that we got to get out of the league, or should we give him a chance tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's definitely not the former. I mean, certainly one game doesn't make a season or a career. He wasn't great in his debut, and it's a little bit concerning because Tennessee's not that potent on defense. They were pretty good again today against the Jets, though, so it's not like Tennessee's an awful team. Tough matchup for him again today, though. I know Houston has struggled in pass defense, but this Houston team just looks really good. They look like one of the better teams in week one. Now, maybe that win over Indianapolis doesn't look quite as good after Indy's no-show today in Green Bay, but nonetheless, winning your opening game on the road against a division rival is impressive. This game is similar to the other showdown games we've seen to start the season, and that there's just a lot of good options on both teams, and it's a little bit hard to separate between them because we just haven't seen it. We haven't seen it play out. We saw Diggs catch 2 touchdowns last week, but Dallin Collins were also heavily involved. Mixon was really good, got 31 carries, ran all over the Colts defense. It's hard to, separate and distinguish between these Houston weapons. It helps on the Chicago side that Keenan Allen is out. So it's the DJ Moore show, maybe sprinkle in some Rome Odunze, but certainly 8,800 is a low price for a quarterback. I don't think Williams is like a must play considering the plethora of playmakers we have, but I expect a better performance than we saw last week. How about you?
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, one, the price isn't going to break us. Two, he was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. 3, he had a lot of experience in college. Yeah, he only really had 2 great years, but it was enough, and 1 really great year. It was enough to make him the number 1 pick. So I think it's just, hey, sometimes it happens. We saw CJ Stroud, we'll get to him, but he, came out of the gates firing on all cylinders. We've seen other quarterbacks just fall on their face. The NFL is an entirely different game, a lot of different speed, and, these guys are no longer even close to being the best athlete on the field. And even if they are, it's barely better than everybody else. So I think we'll see him put in a little bit better position tonight. I hope that who was it? Shane Waldron. Can he stop playing former Seattle and Rams players? That's kind of frustrating as we get into the pass catching portion here. He had Gerald Everett actually had more snaps, and I think he had 8 or 10 more routes run than Cole Kmet. This is Everett's first year with Chicago. He came into the league in 2017 when Shane Waldron was his position coach with the Rams. And then Waldron worked his way up to passing game coordinator. And then he and Everett reunited in Seattle. Everett obviously has been with the Chargers for the last 2 seasons, but now he's here. He's in his age 30 season, right? He's had multiple opportunities to kind of be the guy, and he always either gets hurt. I vaguely remember some situation, I forget, it was 2020 or 2021. He ended up getting COVID when like the Seattle tight end room was shorthanded with injuries, right? Because they always have so many options there. He never seems to quite break it through. He should not be playing ahead of Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet had a pretty strong season last year. Going from memory, I think he had around 70 catches and I don't know, probably what 600-700 yards, a half dozen touchdowns. He's not a world beater by any stretch, but I think he's better than ever, especially since he's been in the system for quite some, well, new coach obviously, but he's been with the team for quite some time. So that was it's an intriguing wrinkle. The salary on DraftKings is such a discount for Everett that you can go to him because, you know, why? Like I think it's 2,400 for him and 5,000 for Komet or something around. He's half the cost, which makes it interesting. I would like to think they each had one target last week. I would like to think they're going to work to get some more short passes here for Caleb Williams that, you know, build some confidence, etc. But rounding things back out with Williams, he had, you know, he's got some rushing upside, and we do know this. Young quarterbacks and inexperienced backups that get into the game, they often get rushing touchdowns. Why is that? Because when things break down, they run. Whereas the veteran's going to try to extend the play, throw it out of bounds, you know, do something like that. These guys are just like, oh shit, and they're off and running. So that I think is kind of interesting from here or for this kind of a thing. But that's sort of my take on the Chicago passing game. And they just didn't have many plays last week. And we've seen that in quite a few games. Even today, there were a ton of games that just hardly had any plays. It's just like teams were not playing up tempo. They're just, it feels different this year. And it feels like more teams are running the ball. But that's that. In summary, you've got a healthy DJ Moore. Good. Defense is going to be all over him. You've got Rome Odunze, rookie, second game, dealing with the sprained MCL. Hopefully, it's a pain management thing, they said. So hopefully he's going to be okay. And then, you know, we were all disappointed by Williams, but you know what? Last week we were disappointed by Yoshibas for Cincinnati. He had 2 touchdowns today, right? Weird.
Marvin Harrison.
Marvin Harrison was horrible. Worst pick ever. He had 2 touchdowns today.
Yeah.
Like, 130 yards.
I happen to think Caleb Williams is going to be really good. Like I was a big fan in college. I'm hesitant to like have real feelings about predictions on quarterbacks anymore because I was convinced Bryce Young was going to be really good and that CJ Stroud wasn't going to be a good NFL quarterback, but clearly that was wrong. So maybe Caleb Williams won't be good, but he comes in with such high prospect pedigree. He was so good at USC and Oklahoma before that. Like, I don't love this spot for him, you know, because I think Houston's a really good team, but I don't think that Houston's like special defensively. And I think that I would be surprised if Williams doesn't have a significantly better game, real life wise and fantasy wise tonight.
Yeah, just going from memory here, when I was looking at some of the props, and a reminder, bet 365, you bet $5 and you get $200, whether your bet wins or loses. You need to come in through the link in the YouTube description below us here. I believe Williams is somewhere around 216 to 224 for his over under on his passing lines, depending on which book you're looking at. And I think he was around like between 18 and 24 yards for his rushing. So that's not horrible. And I think he's 8,800 on DraftKings. Totally palatable. He needs to get a touchdown, either running one in or maybe throwing 2. But that price is a little easier to pay off, as they say. So that takes care of the pass catchers. The running game here, we saw quite a bit of DeAndre Swift. I don't believe he had a target. He did play on 70% of the plays, and he had 10 carries for 30 yards. He did get 1 target, it looks like. So he is someone I think they'll work to get some run support for Williams. That didn't really happen in the last game. And everybody said, oh my God, Caleb Williams, you know, he won. The defense had a pick 6 and a blocked kick, I think it was, for a touchdown last week. So they kind of carried him. You had Khalil Herbert outsnapped by Travis Homer, who once upon a time, even though he's with Chicago last year, he was with Seattle. and Shane Waldron. Somehow he was on the field more than Khalil Herbert. That was kind of weird, but it was 11-6. So that could flip very easily. But it was, again, DeAndre Swift is the main guy. Blasingame, who is out tonight, he's kind of their fullback. He was on the field for 7 snaps, and then Roschon Johnson was inactive. I'm guessing he may be active today, but kind of an afterthought at that point, and they may have gone with another receiver. I didn't try to math into who was available or not, but those guys aren't that appealing. How do you feel about DeAndre Swift? Do you think there'll be some passing game? That's the wild card question.
Tough to say. We haven't seen it with Caleb Williams.
In our one game sample size of 56 plays.
But even still, like, he wasn't a big dumped off guy in college. Yeah. He's a guy that extends plays on his own. So, again, I don't want to say that Swift isn't going to be involved in the passing game just because he wasn't last week, but wouldn't be surprised if he's not involved as much as people thought he would be coming into the season. It doesn't mean he's a bad play tonight. Kind of priced down a little bit because he wasn't great last week. He finds himself a little, like, there's just so many playmakers to choose from on this slate. It's hard to say that, he's a significantly better play than, the other guys that are a little bit more expensive, but reminds me a little bit of James Cook, on Thursday Night Football, where, tough to get there, but on a showdown slate, like, his 3 touchdowns were massive. I think that Achane was the optimal captain because he did so much in the passing game, but Cook was right there. I don't expect a game like that from Swift tonight, but I expect similar ownership as we saw from Cook as we will Swift this evening.
All right. That takes care of the Chicago side. Not the fair. We're going to get into some strategy talk here. We're setting the stage here. We're trying to consolidate this analysis as much as we can to set the stage for everybody. FanDuel, of course, is for whatever reason gone back to including the Sunday night game into their main slate. They haven't for the last 5 or 6 years, but they are doing that. I haven't looked to see if it's impacted much of their showdown slate sizes, but we're kind of focused on DraftKings here because of the strategy of the 1.5 multiplier on the salary in addition to the points for their captain spot. Let's talk CJ Stroud. Pretty good at the old football here. He actually was the offensive rookie of the year, which should be no surprise for the season he had. His calling card is not throwing interceptions. Last year, he only played 15 games last year, but he led the league in yards per game, passing yards per game. He led the league with the 23 to 5 touchdown to pass touchdown to interception ratio. And then he had a 1% interception rate, which also led the league. So Tua Tagovailoa had the most yards, but he played a couple more games than Stroud did. So Stroud has an embarrassment of riches. They brought in Mixon to kind of shore up the running game. They brought in Stephon Diggs. I read a couple things where people were saying Stephon Diggs is old. He's 30 years old. He's made the Pro Bowl each of the last 4 seasons. In 2020, he led the league in receptions and yards, was an All-Pro. 2022, he was second-team All-Pro, and he was Pro Bowl each of these 4 years. Yes, receivers start to decline around that time, but come on, somebody as good as him is going to be perfectly fine, especially when you got those 2 young guys in Tank Dell and Nico Collins around him. It makes it very tricky, though, with the addition of him just to really feel comfortable or confident in knowing which of these amazing pass catchers is going to get the love in this one, because we also have the tight ends with Dalton Schultz in the mix. And then they used a pick on that guy from your neck of the woods from Ohio State. He played with Stroud a couple years ago. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Is it Cruz? Is it... Get back to my notes here. My apologies. It is Stover. Cade, that's where I was going. I was like, it's a 4-letter word starting with the C. That was his first name. So funny enough, he actually, his freshman year at Ohio State, he was a defensive lineman. The next year he converted to linebacker and tight end. And then his last 2 years, he was a full-time tight end. So he had a really good year. Last year was like a 3rd or 4th round pick. This year, he is very cheap, but he's got to work past Brevin Jordan. He's got to work past Dalton Schultz. And now we'll get to Cam Akers. But with him as the $200 player on DraftKings, you don't really need to go to Cade Stover at this point. But it wouldn't shock me if by Halloween, he's kind of ahead of Brevin Jordan in this. He's also a really good blocker.
Stroud loved him at Ohio State.
Yeah. So the old shower narrative, the locker room narrative, if you will, see another man naked and special feelings. Wait, what? Sorry, that's wrong channel. It's the OnlyFans channel. So what the embarrassment of riches, do you have someone you like amongst these pass catchers, or do you want to just grab Stroud to consolidate them?
Man, yes and no. Like it's hard to separate and differentiate between these guys. My favorite is going to be Tank Dell. He was last week. He still is this week. He's the cheapest. And I think you can make like real cases for all three of them as to why they're, the top guy. If they were all priced the same, I think my favorite would be Nico Collins, but Dell is significantly cheaper. And I think his upside is just as high as Collins's is. We saw Collins really take off when Dell got hurt last year. Dell was better than him for the beginning part of the season. He was a monster in college. Stroud and Dell are like, you want to talk about, shower narratives. They're like real tight. He's said time and time again that like Dell's his guy. He's only 7,400 compared to 10K for Collins and 94 for Diggs. For me, it's pretty clearly Tank Dell. I think his floor might be lower than the other two just because of workload, etc. But his ceiling is just as high, and he's significantly cheaper, and ownership is relatively similar on all of them.
All right. Quickly on the running game. So David Pierce out. That means Cam Akers active. Akers obviously was with the Rams. He kind of fell out of favor there, was traded to Minnesota last year, and then got hurt after he was traded, I think, in week 3. And then he ended up getting injured. He had good camp, good reports out of training in the preseason, but was inactive last week. So we saw Mixon just dominate the carries. We throw around the term bell cow role. There are not very many of those left in the NFL because the running back is such a brutal position. See Christian McCaffrey if you have any wonders about that.
Honestly, there seems to be more bell cows now than there have been recently, though.
They're gonna get crushed. You can't sustain this for 17 weeks plus playoffs. It's just
maybe not, but like we are seeing it. Jonathan Taylor, Kamara, Kyron Williams, like we're seeing it.
Yeah, as we lose one per week at some point, the coaches are gonna ease back. 30 carries is a lot. 30 carries is a lot. 20 indicates bell cow rule these days. I think we see 20 to 24 touches or opportunities anyway tonight from Mixon. We don't know what we're going to get with Akers. I'm willing to roll the dice with him. He may or may not be in my cash game lineup. I haven't decided yet because I couldn't figure out where to spend the excess funds. But for those of you wanting to get some free money from Team Free Money, that would be this guy here. I think I have about a 10% win rate so far this season in primetime head-to-heads. So username EMac in the DK lobby, just $1. Grab on to those. So what is your guess with Akers? 4.5 over under for his touches. Feel about right?
Feels very right to me. I think I'd go under, but I think that's a right line. I don't feel any conviction about that. Yeah,
barring like fourth quarter mop up duty, right? Which is a 20% outcome, right? So you're like,
or Mixon getting hurt, something like that. In all normal scenarios, I think that's a good line, and I expect him to go under that in like normal game flows. But Houston's good, man. Like, and Chicago only won last week because of Will Levis kind of gifting them the game. Now, a win is a win, but I won't be shocked if the Texans like boat race the Bears here at all.
Yeah, it's what we thought Baltimore was going to win today. We thought the Chiefs were going to crush.
The Bears could easily
Dallas
win
was
this
a
game
juggernaut.
Too. Yeah, I mean that's the NFL for you. Like the Bears could certainly win this game, but just on paper how these teams looked last week, you got to figure Houston is the considerable better team here.
All right, let's hit on kickers and defense special teams. Then we're going to talk some strategy. We're going to talk about some leverage opportunities here. We're going to talk about the single game simulator. It's an 8:20 kickoff, so we have 24 minutes prior to kickoff. So if you have not yet signed up and you're in one of the available states where they have Bet365, you guys definitely want to check that out. That is available in Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, Louisiana, Indiana, Arizona, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania now. And there's a couple more states that will be coming on live online close to NBA, it sounds like. From that, reminder, if anybody you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But if you go through the link in the YouTube description below us here, bet 5, get 200, win or lose on your bet. That's $200 in bet credits. Pretty good deal. Not a bad way to go at all. For our kickers, we have Cairo Santos. He's very, very good. He's very steady. This is his 11th year in the NFL. Over the last 4 years, he has a 91.1% success rate on his field goals, including going 13 of 18 from beyond 50. So that's a 72% rate. If we look at just the last 2 seasons, plus he made a 50-yarder in week 1. He's made 12 of his last 14 from beyond 50. It's an 86% success rate. Not to be, not to give him all the props, but Kamai Fairbairn is in his 8th season. He is the leading kicker for the Texans. He made all 3 of his kicks last week. All 3 were from 50 to 52 yards. He has made 11 of his last 12 from beyond 50. He's the guy I want to get in my cash game lineup, but I don't want to leave. It's either going to be $1,200 or $1,900 on the floor there, and I don't really like the other options I'm seeing. So I really, really, really like Fairbairn today. A 95.2% success rate over the last 2 seasons plus last week, and he has made 47 of his last 48 point after touchdown attempts. These are really, really, really good kickers. When we look at defense here, for the Texans, Williams was sacked twice last week, lost a fumble, no picks. Houston got to Richardson when they were beating the Colts last week. They got him twice, intercepted him once. We're expecting a conservative ball control approach from Chicago, but Texans should be able to have sort of a meaningful fantasy score here. On the other side, the Bears, they probably aren't going to get 2 more return touchdowns between now and, Halloween at this point. But they had 3 sacks against Tennessee. They had 8 tackles for loss. That's something I like to look at as well, because it just kind of tells you how the defensive line and linebackers are playing. They had a pair of interceptions and a fumble recovery. So if this was at home, I'd probably flip the 2 of them in my rankings. You guys can see that on the homepage here of Stochastic, the free article, but I give the slight edge to Houston for being at home. Who is your favorite captain or multiplier option tonight?
Well, first off, just to touch on the D's and kickers, I like both. I like all 4 of them a lot. I think you can make real cases for, you talked about Texans D and Fairbairn, and then I think the Bears side of things is just going to be lower owned all over. And I will say, a little surprising to me, the line in this game is only 6. Makes me kind of like the Bears. Like, Vegas is giving them a lot of credit. The Texans looked good to me last week. The Colts only scored on a couple unicornish plays by Anthony Richardson. Like, otherwise they completely controlled that game. The line is a little bit fishy in my mind. World is obviously on Houston here. I'm not going to be surprised if we see the Bears, stay in this game. That said, early season lines can often just be off because we don't know how Caleb Williams is going to be, et cetera, et cetera. So, taking it back to the defense and kickers, we've seen low scoring games all over the NFL the first couple of weeks, and kickers have been optimal a bunch. Fairbairn is by far the highest leverage play on the board, and Texans D is second. So I like that side a lot here. As far as captain goes, I talked about Tank Dell earlier. I like him quite a bit. The guy that's popping is DJ Moore. Again, 18% chance of being optimal in the captain, 14% ownership. He's projected to be the highest owned captain, but by far the highest captain optimal percentage. So I'll say he looks good there. And then Texans D and Fairbairn. totally viable for me in the captain spots.
So cash game lineup, the question comes down to, do you want to go with Mixon or do you want to go with CJ Stroud? In my opinion, the one semi knock against Stroud and what keeps him from being a truly elite fantasy quarterback, this is the running aspect. He did have 3 rushing touchdowns last year, but I want to say he was just under 200 yards. He does not run nearly as much as we would like for that breakout score. He could get multiple touchdowns. He could throw touchdowns to 3 different receivers, and none of the receivers get there, right? So that's what makes Stroud somewhat appealing as your safer captain multiplier. On FanDuel, I would probably go with Mixon. I'm debating it on DraftKings right now between Mixon and Stroud. If you were just playing in 3 maxes or 3 mans head-to-heads 50-50s, would you lean towards Mixon, who may not get a lot of passing work, or would you go with Stroud? Doesn't really have that rushing.
I think I would go Stroud because, you know, I do think last week was a little bit of an aberration with Mixon just going off. I think Indy just picked their poison and said that they were going to let Mixon beat them. We don't know the Bears are going to do the same thing. And ultimately, I think this is a Stroud-led offense. Certainly, there's reasons to go Mixon. You mentioned it. The biggest for me is that Stroud doesn't really run. But even last week, like, Mixon was everything, and Stroud still finished with like 19 fantasy points. For me, it's Stroud, a little bit cheaper, but I get the other side as well. It's close.
All right. I have decided on, I think, Stroud. Looks like there's a handful of those sweet EMac dollars sitting out there, team-free money. Again, I have about a 10% win rate in head-to-heads this season between the primetime showdowns and DraftKings main Sunday slate. Not been good to me, not been kind. Thank God we have a few more days of regular season baseball, Matt, because that is the one thing keeping me afloat here. Well, along with sports betting and tailing Ben in college football. He's had a couple good games, a couple good weeks, which has done well for me. You guys can get that over on OddsShopper. You can get the new feature. You can just go with a specific person that you want to subscribe to, or you can subscribe to multiple folks. It's the new feature over there on OddsShopper. It is the Tails feature, but very, very helpful. And we're adding in a bunch of people from across the industry, not just stochastic contributors, though, of course, your favorite stochastic contributors are there. All right, let's see here. Who is your under-owned options here?
I'm going to go with the guys that we just talked about, Fairbairn and the Texans D. You know, both coming in with nice leverage. Fairbairn projected to be slightly under 20% owned. Texans D 25% owned. So I'm liking both sides of that. You know, it's tough. There's certainly opportunity cost because there's so many playmakers to pick from here. So like the opportunity cost comes from using roster spots on D and kickers, but there's plenty of times where this game plays out a little bit sloppier and kickers and D are needed, especially kickers. I like the kickers slightly more than the defenses, but you know, it doesn't take that much for a D to be optimal on one of these type of slates.
No, and that's my one regret is the way I've set up my lineup. I don't have any kickers in it. And I like both of these kickers a lot. So I will be probably overweight to them on the field. I see that I've run my first set of the Sims here more or less unencumbered. It's really pushing DJ Moore in the captain spot. The field's at 13%. It's got me at 40%. I'm going to back that off just a little bit because I'd like to grant some elsewhere across this portfolio, maybe some Nico Collins, some Tank Dell, hoping for a two touchdown game from one of them. I'd like to take some of that away from DJ Moore. So I will be doing that. If I look at the flex spots here, I am going to have about 50% of Fairbairn. And where is Kairos Santos? That's weird. There he is. 11%. So I'm going to boost him a little bit, and I'm going to take a little bit off Fairbairn to kind of balance that out, just a skosh. But that's my initial reads here, as we are 14 minutes away from kickoff here. I want to mention shout outs to Melissa, longtime Stochastic subscriber. She won the $6,000 20 max on DraftKings for a cool $600. So as long as she is repping the Stochastic avatar, we have tweaked the Stochastic Hall of Fame program. So the new details are that you can win twice per calendar year instead of just once. All you got to do is rock one of the Stochastic avatars. Jordan has those up on the screen. There's quite a few you can choose from here. You got to follow a couple instructions, like, tweeting it to Stochastic HOF on Twitter with your Stochastic avatar in the screenshot. But if you get first, second, or third in a let me see, hold on.
In a contest,
yeah, if you get first, second, or any contest of $5,000 or 5,000 entries or more, dollar entry fee does not matter. You will get a free Stochastic monthly access to the Sims if you would like. It's a $550 value. It's pretty good. You can win it twice. So Melissa just did a good job there of winning that for herself. And if any win of over $20,000, you're going to get a Stochastic ring of honor in a nice little display case commemorating your victory, which is pretty cool. Jordan's got those up on the screen. And then apparently there's something new if you win the Millie with the Stochastic avatar. Laffy and Tom have something cooked up. So expect those to be announced soon. Let me drop the link into the YouTube chat here that has all of the information about that. But there is the ring of honor options. Oh, I see Melissa's in chat. Shout out to Melissa for that. All right, 11 minutes to go here, Matt. Are you panicking? Are you feeling good? What are your lineups looking like?
Yeah, not panicking at all. Just playing a few lineups tonight. Nothing heavy. I'm not the biggest Showdown fan, so don't usually play too heavy on these. Yeah, I like the Texans D. I like Fairbairn. I like Santos. And yeah, it's the Bears are a lot easier. Are a lot easier to kind of pinpoint than the Texans are, just because, again, with Keenan Allen out, it's clearly DJ Moore's show with Odunze next. The Texans are the hard ones to figure out.
Yeah, hence why I want to get a little more representation with Dell in the captain spot and with Collins in the captain spot. So hopefully this does it, and I will upload my lineups. Let's just do a tweak here. Guys, I gotta say, I have really grown to like the Sims. I don't want to say skeptical at first, but it's, old dog, new tricks. It took a little while for me to come around, but I have thoroughly been enjoying these since then. I love them for baseball, and I'm really liking them for Showdown. I had a little call with Greg yesterday so he could give me a few tips. I've watched his tutorial videos that he has. He's got quite a few of them, and then I listen every week to the show he and Laffy does, and they talk about how they filter things and adjust them. You can also get that via the office hours in the Discord. So we've got a lot of support here on how you can utilize these Sims, because they are kind of sweeping the nation, if you will. They also, since some of the optimizer companies kind of had a hiccup, this is kind of the main show in town. So you want to check those out. Who are you afraid you do not have enough of?
Probably Swift. I could see him breaking the slate, but he's not a priority for me, so can't play everyone.
All right. If you were going to build one last minute lineup, what would you want it to be built around now that we've talked everything? If you were going to add one more.
I think you made some good calls with, tournament long shots and Homer and Stover. It's so hard to get to those guys on this slate because we don't have like the high end talent, like the Tyreek Hills of the world. There's just a bunch of guys on like that next level. So we don't really need like the cheap guys, but you never know how the slate plays out. So like, I think Homer and or Stover is interesting in tournaments, and like the Millie Maker, not the Millie Maker, but the 300K to first tournament.
Right. Let me get these uploaded here. Let's see what we've got. Will EMac get his lineups in before lock? Maybe not. This is I'm getting down to the wire here, and I'm getting very, very nervous. So we will focus on that for just a moment here, because I want to show you guys the lineup single sims lineup builder. Jordan, if you want to kind of go to that on the screen there, if you want to put in that first lineup I gave you, hopefully you have that at the ready. It's kind of interesting here when you do the single entry lineup. I picked that one because you can bounce around with just seeing the different impacts. I believe it is you can move in or out DeAndre Swift, Roma Dunze, kind of in that last spot, and you can just see what it does with the different lineups. Now, this is not a true lineup generator, if you will, but what this is doing is it is giving you the opportunity to come on in and just sort of see. You want to hand build, but you want to figure out a couple things that intrigue you, and you can just play around with them. So I built my Millie Maker lineups today. I did 5 of those on the main slate, and I utilized this tool for them. Cashed 3 of them, which made me happy, but only netted the $100 that I put into it. So it was kind of fun though to play around and move players in or out to see what happens when you take somebody like Mason out of the main slate, and just don't have him. And then what if you craft things for where a game script that it goes to Kittle, or it goes to Debo, and just get him out of there, right? You do direct leverage. Now you can kind of do that on these showdown slates as well, but you can see what are the moving parts that will help me or hurt me. And you can start, if you're, what is the best last option in? Like you just got 5 guys that you really want in your lineup. You can play around with this and see what changes the ROI, right? Or what happens if you leave money on the table. The interesting thing about the Sims, and this does do the slate 40,000 times. It's built on play-by-play ground up game scripts here. So it's something that is very powerful, but it's also allows us to perhaps, I don't know that dispel is the right word, but get away from some of these things that we thought were just tried and true hard and fast DFS rules, like stacks and bringbacks and all that on the feature slate. We're seeing more and more that that's not necessarily the case. We're also seeing difference in scoring, etc., which is changing things as well. But this single lineup sims is a pretty cool tool here. All right, my lineups have been uploaded, so let's see what else here. EMac not getting the baked potato on the side. I must have missed that one. Can someone let me know if Tyler Scott is playing? Let's see, is he in the projections? If he's in the projections, my guess is yes. I don't think he was active last week. I'm hoping. We haven't projected for 2.7 fantasy points, so I'm assuming somebody has confirmed that he is on the active roster. But it looks like he is. Velus Jones Jr. is inactive. So that is important information. Let's just quickly look at the other wide receivers here. Colin Johnson, he was the guy I didn't think would be active today. But it looks like he might be. So actually, somebody we didn't talk about at all was DeAndre Carter. So DeAndre Carter is, he's on his 6th team in like 7 years. He's a really, really good return man. He was going to kind of be your middle of the road punt play, but now we got Akers. Now we got Keenan Allen out, right? So that changed things around, but he's $2,000 on DraftKings. He's a competent receiver. Technically, he's the 3rd wide receiver now. If you feel that Roma Dunze is going to be limited with his MCL issue, then it's really DeAndre Carter, a bunch of nobodies like Tyler Scott and Colin Johnson. One of them was undrafted free agent, I believe, and the other one has a little bit of draft capital in them. But I would suspect DeAndre Carter would be out there for probably the 3 wide receiver sets. Now with the young quarterback, we could see 2 tight end sets. And that is a way they could go to get some extra protection for him. And since they're running thin, on this, but Carter, I think, is interesting. He did have a 67-yard kick return last week. Only touchdowns count, but those go to him. They also go to the defense. But with the new kick rules, he has a decent chance of breaking one. He also, I want to say, had 5 punt returns, and I think he averaged like 14 or so yards per return. So he's solid in that aspect of the game. If they get him, the ball in space, tough ask potentially for a rookie quarterback playing his second game under the bright lights of Sunday Night Football. But he was someone that's not a complete zero in this game. I vote yes. I got my lineups in. Any Everett. So I ended up with a little bit of Everett and a little bit of I'm blanking on his name, Cole Kmet. There it's mostly going to DJ Moore, Dell, and Collins is where I went. Yeah, 54% thought I'd get my lineups in. It's nice. It's nice. We are 3 minutes away from kickoff here. We talked about the Hall of Fame offer that has been upgraded. We got to see Melissa win that today. You guys can all win that Rock That Stochastic Avatar. We talked about betting $5 and getting $200 in bonus bets on Bet365, which is always fun. And then we hinted a little bit at the new things that we have going on Odd Shopper. So that's a good one here. I feel like I'm missing something. No, I guess I got them all. Like and subscribe. We haven't said that in a while, but we are cresting towards 100,000 subscribers here on our YouTube channel. We got to catch up to Odd Shopper. Odd Shopper raced by us. Do you know those college pick'em videos are getting from Ben and Matt are getting like 4,000 views and some crazy stuff like that? You guys got to check this stuff out. Their show has become so popular. They do the main games from a betting perspective. I think on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, they do overtime, where they do some of the off the board games, because those guys are in the weeds. So you're getting, games that you're not going to see on TV with the FBS schools. So there we go. EMac's going to look like George Hamilton, brown as a bean. That's what George Hamilton used to always say. He was brown as a bean. All right, I think we're good here. Who wins tonight, Matt?
I mean, it's hard not to say Houston wins the game, but I think Chicago keeps this game closer than a lot of people think. So I'm going to say Houston wins, and it wins a tight one.
All right, who gets the first touchdown? Because I bet on Nico Collins. I got a boost from Hard Rock, the only sports wagering company allowed in Florida.
First touchdown, Texans D.
Oh, that's probably like 2,000 to 1 or something like that. There you go. We'll forget this unless it happens, and then we'll remember you. You will be in the Hall of Fame.
Amen.
If this happens. All right, that is going to do it for us here, guys. Remember, and gals, and shout out to Melissa again for winning the Stochastic Avatar Challenge there. Thank you to Jordan Klein for producing. We're going to be doing this all again tomorrow. You're going to get the NFL Week 2 overlook. You're going to get the look ahead for Week 3. Of course, we have Monday Night Football for the Showdown slate, and we also have baseball. Let's not forget, we've got 12 more days until baseball season kind of wraps up, or 12. Each team has about 12 games left. It goes until the beginning of October. So everybody's going to get two or three more off days. But we're getting a lot of Coors Field slates. They were playing 12 of their last 15 in Coors Field. They have a little break when they go. I think they're going to LA against the Dodgers. But check that out. Thank you, everybody. Follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipsMatt. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Stochastic _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.